It's been more than 57 years since Land of the Giants first aired, and the cast has lived through marriages, scandals, heartbreaks, and reinventions that nobody saw coming. 7 people trapped in a world of giants, and audiences around the world glued to their screens every Sunday night. But did you know that one of the show's actors, already famous by then, found out his own sister had publicly accused him of childhood abuse, a scandal that tore their family apart for good? Did you know that 2 cast members fell in love on set, got married, and divorced 10 years later, but stayed close friends for the rest of their lives? And did you know that the show's lead actor broke his ribs during a stunt scene, came back a month later, and broke them again on the other side? Today we're breaking down the real lives of every key player in this legendary series. Some are gone, others walked away from Hollywood and never looked back. One became a winemaker. Let's get into it. Number 1. Stefan Argrim as Barry Lockridge. In 1968, he was just 12 years old, an orphan with a dog named Chipper, the most vulnerable member of the group, and because of that, somehow the most real. In 2026, Stefan Argrim turned 70, and his life turned out to be far more complicated than anything Irwin Allen ever put on the page. He was born December 23, 1955, in Toronto, Canada. His mother, Norma McMillan, was the voice of animated Gumby and Casper the Friendly Ghost. His father, Thor Arngrim, was an actor and talent manager. Stefan got into the business at 6th Through New York Theater. In 1968, Irwin Allen personally handpicked him for the role of Barry, and he appeared in all 51 episodes. After the show, he worked in cult genre films: Fear No Evil, 1981, Class of 1984, 1982, The Fog, 2005, and had roles in Fridge and Caprica. Then, the hammer dropped. His younger sister, Allison Arngrim, famous as Nellie Olson on Little House on the Prairie, publicly stated that she had been sexually abused by Stefan throughout their childhood. The scandal permanently fractured 2 of Hollywood's most recognizable child actors. As of 2026, Stefan lives in Canada and makes occasional appearances at fan conventions. Barry Lockridge survived the world of the Giants. Real life turned out to be a whole lot harder. Number 2. Don Marshall as Dan Erickson. In 1968, he was 32, the Spindrift's first officer and Captain Burton's right-hand man. But Don Marshall's significance went way beyond the role itself. He was one of the first black actors to hold a lead role in a primetime science fiction series, alongside Nichelle Nichols and Greg Morris. This was 1968. Martin Luther King had been assassinated in April, right when they were shooting. Don Marshall was born May 6 in 1936 in San Diego. He played football and pole vault, started studying engineering, but a friend talked him into trying acting. He appeared on Star Trek, Little House on the Prairie, and The Bionic Woman. On the Land of the Giants set, he performed most of his own stunts. In his later years, he wrote a screenplay for a sequel, Escape from the Land of the Giants, dreaming of making it with the original cast. It never happened. On October 30th, 2016, Don Marshall passed away at Cedars-Sinai. He was 80 years old. His twin brother Doug was by his side. Dan Erickson never quit. Don Marshall lived that same way. Number 3. Curt Kasnar as Alexander Fitzhugh. In 1968, he was 54. He played a coward, a liar, a con man, and audiences loved him immediately. Curt Kasnar, born Kurt Servischer, was born August 13, 1913, in Vienna. His family was Jewish. His father abandoned them. In 1936, he emigrated to the United States with Max Reinhardt's theater company. In 1941, he was drafted. What followed is the kind of story that stops you cold. Trained in military filmmaking, he filmed Pacific landings, the signing of the Japanese surrender aboard the Missouri, and was among the first to document the ruins of Hiroshima and Nagasaki after the atomic bombings. Then he went back to Broadway and became a theater star. The original American production of Waiting for Godot, 1956, The Sound of Music, 1959, a Tony nomination, films alongside Leslie Caron and Jennifer Jones, and finally, Fitzhugh. In early 1979, he was diagnosed with cancer. On August 6, 1979, a week before his 66th birthday, Curt Kasnar died in Santa Monica. Fitzhugh was a coward with a heart of gold. Curt Kasnar in real life was a brave man who had stared down an actual apocalypse and didn't break. Number 4, Deanna Lund as Valerie Scott. In 1968, she was 31. Valerie Scott, a spoiled first-class passenger who started out thinking only about herself. Her best line, "Captain, nobody tells me what to do." Deanna Lund was born May 30th, 1937 in Illinois, started her career in Hollywood with small roles, and appeared opposite Frank Sinatra in Tony Rome, 1967. That's the film Irwin Allen saw. Something unexpected happened on set. She and Don Matheson fell in love. They married in 1970 and had a daughter, Michelle, an actress and novelist. After their divorce in 1980, both remained close friends until the end. There's something genuinely moving about that. After the show, she appeared on The Incredible Hulk and the Waltons, and wrote a novel called Valerie in the Land of the Giants. In September 2017, the diagnosis, pancreatic cancer. On June 22, 2018, Deanna Lund passed away at her home in Los Angeles. She was 81. Valerie Scott never gave up. Deanna Lund lived the same way. Number 5, Don Matheson as Mark Wilson. In 1968, he was 38, a hot-headed, stubborn, capable engineer. His real biography reads like the script of a far grittier show. Donald Matheson was born August 5th, 1929, in Dearborn, Michigan. He dropped out of school at 16. He fought in Korea, Bronze Star, Purple Heart. He worked as an undercover cop in Detroit's narcotics division. He studied law. And one day, investigating a case at a local theater where everyone around him seemed genuinely happy, he asked the director if he could try a monologue from a streetcar named Desire, and never left the theater world after that. After Land of the Giants, General Hospital, Santa Barbara, Falcon Crest. He was close friends with Buddy Rich and was a jazz drummer himself. On June 29, 2014, he passed away in his sleep at his daughter Michelle's home. He was 84, lung cancer. Mark Wilson always got handed the hardest jobs. Don Matheson lived his life the exact same way. Number 6, Heather Young as Betty Hamilton. In 1968, she was 23, a flight attendant, warm, professional, the moral compass of the group. But Heather herself never had much love for this show. Her real name was Patricia K. Patterson. She was born April 1st, 1945, in Bremerton, Washington. She'd wanted to be a nurse. A Fox exec heard her singing on the campus of Brigham Young University and signed her to a contract. She was one of the last studio contract starlets in Hollywood. She didn't get a say in whether she was going to be in the series or not. Her co-star Don Matheson would hand off some of his own lines to give Betty more screen time. In the second season, she was pregnant. They shot her from the waist up. In 1968, she married David Juckstetter, 5 kids. After the show was canceled, she stepped away from acting, devoted herself to her family, and wrote 2 musicals under the pen name Patricia York. As of 2026, she's 81 and lives in Utah. Betty Hamilton smiled through everything the Giants threw at her. Heather Young found her own smile in the life she actually wanted. Number 7, Kevin Hagen as Inspector Kobik. In 1969, he was 41. Inspector Kobik was the main villain of Land of the Giants, an agent of the secret police force called SID, who hunted the tiny Earthlings with an almost obsessive persistence, cold, calculating, and genuinely threatening. Kevin Hagen played him in 9 episodes, and every single time, the audience had no idea how it was going to end. Without him, the show would have been something else entirely. Kevin Hagen was born April 3, 1928, in Chicago, Illinois, to a family of professional ballroom dancers. When Kevin was 5, his father walked out. He was raised by his mother, his grandmother, and 2 aunts. The family relocated to Portland, Oregon, where Kevin played baseball and football. He earned a degree in international relations from the University of Southern California. When he appeared in a small Los Angeles theater production of The Thrush, the Los Angeles Times critic called him an outstanding actor, a consummate craftsman, and a sensitive artist. Before Land of the Giants, Hagen was one of the busiest character actors in television. 7 episodes of Gunsmoke, 6 of The Big Valley, 5 each of Bonanza and Have Gun, Will Travel, 4 of Mannix. Everybody recognized the face. Not everybody knew the name. That's the life of a great character actor. After Land of the Giants, his defining role became Dr. Hiram Baker on Little House on the Prairie, a part he played from 1974 to 1983. He connected so deeply with that character that he wrote and performed a one-man show inspired by Doc Baker. It was at one of those performances that he met his 4th wife, Jan. They married in 1993. On July 9, 2005, Kevin Hagen passed away. He was 77. Inspector Kobik chased our heroes to the very end. Kevin Hagen chased his calling the same way. Number 8, Jonathan Harris as the Pied Piper. In 1970, he was 55. When Irwin Allen called and offered him a guest appearance on Land of the Giants, Jonathan Harris, the star of Lost in Space, nearly laughed out loud with delight. His character, the mysterious Pied Piper, a giant who could mesmerize people with his flute and lure them into traps, was the perfect role for an actor who had built his entire career on deliciously sinister charm. Jonathan Harris, born Jonathan Christian, was born November 6, 1914, in New York City, the son of Jewish immigrants from Russia. He grew up in the Bronx. He took private acting lessons, worked on Broadway and in theater, until television opened a whole new world for him. Everyone knows him as Dr. Zachary Smith on Lost in Space, 1965-1968. The most brilliant, most cowardly, most utterly entertaining villain in television history. He was supposed to be written off after a handful of episodes, but he played Smith so brilliantly that Irwin Allen kept him for the whole run. Harris personally rewrote many of his own lines, and the show's creator encouraged it. When Lost in Space was canceled in 1968, Allen invited him to Land of the Giants as a guest star, in a character nothing like Dr. Smith. The Pied Piper wasn't a coward. He was a cold, calculating manipulator. Harris nailed it. Later, his voice became its own star career. He voiced Lucifer in Galactica 1980, Zet in Ants 1998, and appeared in Toy Story 2 1999. In 2002, Jonathan Harris died of an aortic thrombosis in Encino, California. He was 87. Dr. Smith survived Robots and Aliens. Harris survived Hollywood, which is considerably harder. Number 9, Ron Howard as Timmy. In 1970, he was 16, but all of America already knew who he was. Red-headed Opie Taylor from The Andy Griffith Show was one of the most recognizable kid faces on television. In the episode Pay the Piper, he played Timmy, the son of a politician in the Land of the Giants, whom the Pied Piper tries to kidnap. Ron Howard was born March 1, 1954, in Duncan, Oklahoma, into a show business family. He literally grew up on TV sets. He made his television debut at 5. At 8, he started on The Andy Griffith Show, and stayed for 8 years. Along the way, he kept picking up other projects, including Land of the Giants and Francis Ford Coppola's American Graffiti, 1973, until he realized that the director's chair was where he actually belonged. In 1977, he directed his first feature film. Then came Apollo 13, A Beautiful Mind, 2001, Oscar for Best Picture and Best Director, The Da Vinci Code, Angels and Demons, and the production of The Mandalorian. As of 2026, Ron Howard is 72 and one of the most powerful filmmakers on the planet. The same kid the Giants almost snatched in 1970. Safe to say, he's been calling the shots ever since. Number 10, Alan Hale Jr. as Guard Chief Bolar. In 1969, he was 47, and if you expected to see the skipper from Gilligan's Island show up on Land of the Giants, you weren't wrong. Alan Hale Jr. appeared in one of the most memorable episodes of the first season as Bolar, the Giants' chief guard, and brought every ounce of his natural charm with him. Alan Hale Jr., born Alan McCahan, was born March 8, 1921, in Los Angeles. His father, Alan Hale, was a celebrated star of Hollywood's golden era and Errol Flynn's regular sidekick. Jr. literally grew up on studio lots. In 1964, he landed the role that made him immortal Skipper Jonas Grumby on Gilligan's Island, 1964-1967. 3 seasons alongside Gilligan, scolding him with a grin and never losing faith. Everybody knows the skipper. When Gilligan's Island ended in 1967, Alan kept working. Guest spots, TV movies, series appearances, including Land of the Giants, happily taking whatever came his way. He genuinely loved his fans and spent much of his later career at conventions and personal appearances. On January 6, 1990, Alan Hale Jr. passed away from a thymoma, a rare tumor of the thymus gland. He was 68. The skipper never made it home from the island, but that smile of his, Hollywood hasn't forgotten it. Number 11. Yvonne Craig in a guest role. In the late 1960s, she was in her early 30s. Yvonne Craig was one of the most dazzling women in the entertainment world. A trained ballerina, actress, and the definitive Batgirl of the Batman TV series, Barbara Gordon, 1967 to 1968. She came to Land of the Giants as a guest star. Yvonne Craig was born May 16, 1937, in Tacoma, Washington. She trained in ballet from childhood, became a professional dancer, and started acting in the late 1950s. She appeared in several films alongside Elvis Presley. Her turn as Batgirl in 1967 became iconic. By some accounts, her addition to the show was directly responsible for keeping it on the air another season. The ratings jumped. After Batman wrapped, she showed up in various projects, including Land of the Giants. She eventually stepped away from acting and built a successful career in real estate. On August 17, 2015, Yvonne Craig passed away after a battle with breast cancer. She was 78. Batgirl was never beaten by any supervillain. She faced her last enemy quietly, with dignity, all the way to the end. Number 12. Lee Meriwether in a guest role. In 1969, she was 33. Lee Meriwether arrived on Land of the Giants as one of the most recognizable faces on American television. Her connection to Irwin Allen went back to the time tunnel, where she'd been a series regular, and that relationship opened the door to Land of the Giants. Lee Meriwether was born September 27, 1935, in Los Angeles. In 1955, she was crowned Miss America, a title that opened the entertainment world overnight. But she refused to be defined by her looks. In 1966, she played one version of Catwoman in the Batman feature film, a different take than Julie Newmar's on the TV series, and every bit as memorable. After a long career in film and television, she stayed active well into the 2010s. As of 2026, Lee Meriwether is 90 years old, and still one of the few genuine legends of that era who shows up at fan events with the same radiant smile she's always had. Miss America, Catwoman, a visitor in the world of giants. Some people don't age, they just become a legend. Number 13. Glenn Corbett as Major Hagen. In 1968, he was around 38. Major Hagen appeared in one of the tensest episodes of the first season, a giant who just might become an ally to the Earthlings. Glenn Corbett played him with that trademark quiet restraint that made everything he did feel real. Glenn Corbett, born Glenn Ebersoleil, was born August 17, 1929, in El Monte, California. He served in the military, and that background gave him an easy natural authority when playing soldiers and men of power. In the 1960s, he appeared on Route 66, The Outer Limits, and Star Trek. In the episode Metamorphosis, he played Zephram Cochrane, the inventor of warp drive, one of the most memorable one-off characters in the entire Trek universe. Those kinds of roles kept his career consistently strong, even without a starring vehicle. In real life, he was missing part of a lung from a previous illness, and still brought everything he had to every single job. In 1993, he was diagnosed with lung cancer. Glenn Corbett passed away on January 16, 1993. He was 63. Major Hagen could have given our heroes a shot at survival. Glenn Corbett gave his audiences something rarer: total honesty. Number 14. Warren Stevens as Captain Ashim. In 1969, he was around 49. Warren Stevens appeared in 2 episodes of Land of the Giants, proof that the show consistently attracted top-shelf character talent. fans of Forbidden Planet 1956 recognized him right away. He'd played Dr. Ostro in that film, which happened to be one of the direct inspirations for Star Trek. Born November 6, 1919 in Oregon, he served in the Army Air Forces during World War II. He became one of the most dependable supporting actors of the television era. Perry Mason, Gunsmoke, Days of Our Lives. If you needed a composed, authoritative man in the room, you called Warren Stevens. His career stretched across several decades. Steady, scandal-free, no drama. On March 27, 2012, Warren Stevens passed away. He was 92. Some actors spend their entire careers in the background, but a great character actor's background work is what makes every scene breathe. Number 15. John Carradine in a guest role. By the late 1960s, he was past 60, and when he showed up on Land of the Giants, he looked exactly as he always had. Tall, like he'd been carved out of an earlier century, with that unmistakable voice that hit like a warning shot. John Carradine was one of the greatest character actors who ever lived, with a career spanning nearly 7 decades. John Carradine, born Richmond Reed. Carradine was born February 5, 1906 in New York City. His 3 sons, David, Keith, and Robert Carradine, all became actors. One of Hollywood's most celebrated acting dynasties. David, the legendary Kwai Chong Caine on Kung Fu and Bill in Kill Bill. Keith, the lead in McCabe and Mrs. Miller. Robert appeared in Pulp Fiction and dozens of other films. All of that stems from one man. John himself debuted in theater in the 1920s, worked in silent film, and then appeared in John Ford's The Grapes of Wrath, 1940. He appeared in more than 350 films and TV productions. He worked until the very end. On November 3, 1988, John Carradine passed away in Florence, Italy, where he'd traveled for an engagement. He was 82. His last words, according to legend, were spoken to his son, David. "What beautiful towers, Florence. A great actor deserves great last words." Number 16. Eric L. Nelson as a SID agent. In 1969 and 1970, he was around 30. Eric Nelson is one of those performers whose face you know better than his name. He appeared in 5 episodes of Land of the Giants as agents of the secret police force SID, cold, faceless enforcers who made the giant world feel genuinely sinister. Born June 7, 1938. Alongside his acting work, he developed a second professional track as a property master and production designer. In that capacity, he worked on 2 of the biggest disaster films of the 1970s, The Poseidon Adventure, 1972, and The Towering Inferno, 1974. Both earned him serious industry credibility and demonstrated that he could operate at the highest level of production. He later served as property master on National Treasure, 2004, Lethal Weapon 4, 1998, and many other major productions. That kind of dual career is genuinely rare in an industry where most people pick a lane. The SID agent in the world of giants was just one small chapter in a long professional life. Number 17. Stephen Marlo as a SID officer. In 1969 and 1970, he was around 45. Stephen Marlo appeared in 4 episodes of Land of the Giants in various roles as agents and technicians of the giant world. His real name was Hector Mendez. Born December 31, 1928 in Cuba, he grew up in Manhattan and was drawn to the stage from early on. His acting career covered both film and television from the 1950s through the 1990s. On the big screen, he's best remembered for his role in The Pillory, 1956, with Ray Milland, and for the westerns of that era. On television, he worked across every genre: westerns, crime dramas, science fiction. Land of the Giants was one chapter in the rich biography of a character actor who could make any nameless authority figure feel completely real. As of 2026, he's gone. Stephen Marlo passed away on January 1, 2009. He was 80. The giant police officers came and went as the script required. Stephen Marlo stayed in the game until the very end. Number 18. Michael Quinn as Guard. Jake in 1969, he was around 30. Michael Quinn appeared in 3 episodes of Land of the Giants as guards and officials of the giant world. He was exactly the type of character actor that producers kept bringing back to set. Dependable, precise, never pulling focus. In real life, he shifted directions more than once, working in both theater and television. Unlike most of his Land of the Giants colleagues, he never became part of the show's fan cult, staying firmly in the background. His biography is almost entirely absent from public records, which itself says something about a professional modesty that's genuinely uncommon. But actors like him, not names, just faces, are what give a show its texture. Guard Jake, Lieutenant Emar, and his other nameless giants made the hostile world feel real. Without roles like those, the Spindrift would have been a ship in a void, not a place of actual danger. Number 19. Ted Jordan as the museum cop and the toy between 1968 and 1970. He was around 45. Ted Jordan appeared in 3 episodes of Land of the Giants in different roles. His real name was Edward Frote. He was born May 9, 1923 in New York City. His path to the screen ran through the military and theater workshops. General audiences know him best as Naphtali on Gunsmoke, a role he played for many years across more than 20 episodes. Beyond that, there was a personal story in his life that only became public after his death. He'd had a long romantic relationship with Marilyn Monroe, and eventually wrote a book about it, Norma Jean, My Secret Life with Marilyn Monroe. That biographical detail gives him a dimension that nobody would have seen coming. On October 6, 2022, Ted Jordan passed away at the age of 99, a life of nearly a century, and one of its chapters was lived among giants. Number 20, Paul Fix as Dr. Brule. Between 1968 and 1969, he was in his late 60s. Paul Fix appeared in 2 episodes of Land of the Giants, and each time he brought something to the set that's almost impossible to define, that old Hollywood solidity you can't fake, you can only earn. Born March 13, 1901, in Dobbs Ferry, New York, his career started in the silent film era, the 1920s. In half a century in the business, he appeared in more than 300 films and TV productions. Paul Fix was one of John Wayne's closest friends and most important mentors. He personally helped the young Wayne develop his walk and his physicality in the early years of his career. They made dozens of westerns together. On television, his signature role was Marshal Micah Torrance on The Rifleman, 1958-1961. His face, weathered like old saddle leather, became the visual shorthand for an entire era of American cinema. On Star Trek, he played Dr. Mark Piper in the pilot episode, the same role that eventually went to DeForest Kelley. His appearances in Land of the Giants were small, but people like him, with decades of craft behind them, are what make every scene feel lived in. On October 14, 1983, Paul Fix passed away in Los Angeles. He was 82. Dr. Brule was in good hands out there in the world of giants. Number 21, Jack Albertson as Professor Kermis. Between 1969 and 1970, he was around 60. Jack Albertson appeared in 2 episodes of Land of the Giants in different roles, and did it with the ease that only the genuinely great ones have. No visible effort, just complete command. Born June 16, 1907, in Raynham, Massachusetts, he started in vaudeville, moved to theater, then film, then television. He traveled the whole road, from broke to Oscar winner. In 1968, the year before his appearance on Land of the Giants, he won the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor for The Subject Was Roses. Before that came Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, 1971, where he played Grandpa Joe, one of the warmest, most beloved characters in the history of family cinema. From 1974 to 1978, he starred in the sitcom Chico and the Man, alongside the young Freddie Prinze. And then came the tragedy nobody could have seen coming. In 1977, Freddie Prinze, 22 years old, Jack's co-star and friend, took his own life. Albertson was devastated. On November 25, 1981, Jack Albertson died of cancer in Hollywood. He was 74. Professor Kermis in The World of the Giants was a supporting role. Jack Albertson in the history of American entertainment. never just supporting. Number 22, Gary Conway as Captain Steve Burton. And here we are, the captain, the commander, the man who held everything together, on screen and off. In 1968, he was 32 years old. He appeared in all 51 episodes of Land of the Giants. In 2026, Gary Conway turned 90. Gary Conway, born Gareth Monello Carmody, was born February 4, 1936, in Boston. At UCLA, he met Marion McKnight, Miss America 1957. They married in 1958. They've been together more than 65 years. In Hollywood, that's almost unheard of. Before Land of the Giants, cult AIP horror films, I Was a Teenage Frankenstein, 1957, and 4 seasons of the detective series Burke's Law, as 66 episodes alongside Gene Barry. That work is what got him in front of Irwin Allen. Something extraordinary happened during production. In a fight scene with Zalman King, King accidentally broke his ribs. After a month of recovery, Gary came back to film the same scene. And Zalman broke his ribs again, on the other side, twice. 2 months in the hospital over a single scene. That's what commitment to the job looks like. After the show, he turned to architecture, designing homes and wineries across California. In 1968, the same year the series premiered, he and Marion purchased a 320-acre ranch in Paso Robles and planted their first vines. That became Carmody McKnight Estate Winery, one of the most respected wineries in California. In 2019, they sold it to a larger company. In 2023, he launched a wine label called Land of the Giants, with artwork showing Captain Burton caught in a giant's palm. He still paints. His daughter Kathleen is a winemaker. His son Gareth is a producer for PBS and National Geographic. Captain Steve Burton never gave up. Gary Conway has lived exactly that way, with dignity, with loyalty, with grace. 57 years ago, 7 people and a dog named Chipper crash-landed on the Spindrift in a world of giants. Nobody knew if they'd ever make it home. That's what kept us watching, and honestly, it's still what keeps us watching. Today we know how their real stories ended. Of the 7 main cast members, 4 are gone. Curt Kasnar in 1979 at 65, Don Marshall in 2016 at 80, Don Matheson in 2014 at 84, Deanna Lund in 2018 at 81. Kevin Hagen passed away in 2005 at 77. Among the guest stars, we lost Jonathan Harris, Warren Stevens, Jack Albertson, Ted Jordan, Paul Fix, and Stephen Marlo. Every single one irreplaceable. Every single one left a mark that time hasn't touched. The ones still here keep surprising us. Stefan Argrim is 70 and still in the mix. Heather Young is 81 and writing musicals. Gary Conway is 90, bottling wine, painting canvases, and remembering every single shot like they wrapped yesterday. Land of the Giants wasn't just a TV show, it was an experiment. What happens to people when the world around them turns hostile and enormous? Turns out, they fight, they fall in love, they survive, they push through scandals and grief and illness, and they stay themselves. And 57 years later, that's still the most honest thing anyone can say about what people are actually made of. Drop a comment and let us know. Which cast member surprised you the most? Did you grow up watching this show, or are you just now discovering it? Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. There are plenty more stories worth telling.